I was coming to talk to this girl, I swear to God.
Just have a seat and we'll talk about it.
Come on, man.
Man, I'm telling you, we can do this a couple different ways. The best way to do it is to sit on the couch and we'll talk about it.
Okay, who are you?
I'll get to that in a minute.
Please come here. Please.
If you don't sit down, there's going to be trouble.
What brings you to Livingston Parish?
Well, we came in this morning for the Sheriff's Prayer Breakfast and to talk about the sting operation that we did a month ago, where along with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, we went undercover and 11 men were arrested in the sting who were attempting to sexually exploit a child. And they were men from all walks of life, some involved in the school districts and some involved in one fellow was actually in the police academy in New Orleans for a time. People from various businesses all had gone online, had a conversation, an illicit conversation with a law enforcement decoy posing as a child, and came over to a location to try to exploit that child. And instead, they met the sheriff's office and me and my crew. Through a combination of reporting on some different stories that had some occurrences in Livingston Parish and through some connections through law enforcement, I had heard that Sheriff Ard and his team had conducted one of these investigations, and as I frequently do with law enforcement agencies around the country, I reach out and try to embed and try to tell the stories of different law enforcement agencies around the country who do these investigations and take part in the investigations. And the hope is by exposing these people, by holding them accountable, by trying to get inside their minds and understand how the mind of a predator works, we can better understand how to protect ourselves from predators of all types. But in this case, to sort of educate parents and children and create a dialogue and awareness that maybe doesn't exist the way it should.
So I guess educate me. Talk to me. If a parent is watching this right now, what are the biggest takeaways?
Well, I think you have to have a conversation that's age appropriate the moment your child has access to the internet. When I was growing up, the advice was don't talk to strangers. Great advice then, great advice today. The problem today is the guy who's a stranger on Wednesday is so adept at grooming your child, he's not a stranger by Friday. And kids oftentimes are adventurous, they're curious, and the predators know this, and they can play on the vulnerabilities that every child has, every teen has. And so parents need to say, look, if you're approached online by somebody who makes you uncomfortable, or if you're tricked, or if you're influenced in a bad way, you can come to me and we'll sort this out. We'll work together. We've got a big documentary underway on sextortion, where criminals from half a world away are posing as young women, enticing boys to send them illicit photos. And then they extort these children. And some of these guys, these kids, are great kids who just get tricked, end up committing suicide. And it's a horrible, tragic occurrence. And if they had just talked to their parents, and these are good kids in good homes with good parents, but if the parents just knew to somehow get involved in this at the right time and say, look, your world is not ending. It's going to be okay. In 2 weeks, nobody's even going to talk about this. Grandma's not going to know. Just let it ride out. And parents can go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they can get advice on how to scrub some of these pictures and these events off the web so that the children don't have to live with this exploitation.
I'm a reporter, so I understand there's a reason we do what we do. Why do you do this?
Well, I do it because it's important. I do it because, I have the access to law enforcement after 42 years of reporting in this space. And I have a unique skill set, I suppose, that allows me to have this access and to use it to, educate people. But at the end of the day, the reason why I do it is to continue to expose the people committing these crimes. When we started this particular franchise 20 years ago, I figured we'd do it 2 or 3 times. Who's going to show up? 20 years later, 21 years this month, these guys are still showing up. So what does that tell you? This isn't going away. When we started these investigations, we merely had decoys in chat rooms on AOL and Yahoo. maybe that thing you might remember called MySpace. Well, today, the number of social media platforms upon which adults can approach children has exploded. I can't even keep up with it. My team can't even keep up with it. Law enforcement can't keep up with it. So I think it's important work to do. We do reporting in a lot of different areas, but this is something that, I don't see us ending anytime soon. If young people see these shows, hopefully some of this sticks with them and makes them smarter and safer online. And this is not just, predators who are preying on children. There are predators out there preying on elderly citizens in financial scams. We work on those stories too. So the mindset of a predator is pretty much the same when you're talking about people who try to exploit children and people who try to exploit the elderly. It's the same mindset. And so the more we can expose this, I think the safer we can make people.
You've been doing this across the country. I guess rank Livingston Parish in the last month.
Well, I think it was a very successful investigation. You're talking about 11 men in 3 days. I think here in Livingston Parish, there's a very sophisticated sheriff's office that has made this a priority. And not every law enforcement agency has the resources and the ability to do this. And so we work with agencies like Livingston Parish, Genesee County in Michigan, Polk County in Florida, Blount County in Alabama, Montgomery County in Ohio, all over the country. And what we found is even the agencies who have less manpower, less experience in this field, we find agencies with more experience coming in and helping them do this. Because if a law enforcement agency isn't doing this work, they're merely allowing agencies who are to push the problem into their community. Everybody needs to be doing this. Now, you can't do it every day. And depending on the size of the agency, you may do it once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year. But at least you're sending that message out. At least you're creating some deterrence. And at least there's a sense that if you try this in my parish, you're going to face justice swiftly.
When will these make air?
One has already dropped on my streaming crime network, True Blue, which is TRUBLU. Watch trueblue.com for details. And the rest will be coming out over the next several weeks.
And how many episodes do we have?
11 episodes from Livingston Parish. And they probably won't air all back to back. We'll probably mix them in with some of the other law enforcement agencies. But, over the next couple months, they'll all be dropped. It was a real pleasure to work with Livingston Parish. Sheriff Ard and his team are superbly professional, and it's always energizing to me to take on a new partner in this endeavor, and to work with men and women who are so passionate about this particular sort of investigation. It was a pleasure to do this.